Go ahead.
All right, good morning. I'd like to call this meeting June 12th, San Mateo County Harbor District Board of Harbor Commissioners to order. May we have a roll call, please? Marty,
Mateusz,
here.
Commissioner Zemke,
Here.
Commissioner Domrat,
Here.
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Present.
Commissioner Jen Crowley.
Director of Operations.
Raleigh is stuck in traffic, will be here momentarily.
Probably, yeah.
Director of Operations, Moran, would you lead us in the pledge?
Sure.
Indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Say momentarily.
Yes, right on cue.
Following her. Traffic. See it till.
Let the minutes reflect that Commissioner Chang Karali has arrived. We don't have any public comments or questions at this moment. So we're moving on to item D, Commissioner comments. Do I have any commissioners who would like to make a comment for our board meeting? Any comments on the dismay of our permitting process?
Well, I'll make a comment. So I've been hearing from the public about how upset they are about the dredging project. I mean, just horrible. They want to know what they can do in terms of who they should contact about, you know, I guess voicing their frustration. And I don't know. I mean, I've told them, you know, what we've discussed in our meeting, and I just want everyone to know that people are very upset. And these are obviously coastside residents who have been following this project for at least as long as I've been on this board and longer. So I don't know, Jim, if you've probably have heard some people's displeasure and frustration about this, but is there anyone they can write to or besides us? Because it's really out of our hands right now.
Yeah, as we'll hear later from John, the permit from the water board was issued.
Yeah, but
We have that, and so there's nothing more we can do. We're on track for spring 2025 and pending budgetary issues, we should be good to go.
heard that every year.
This year we have the,
We've literally heard that every
yeah,
year.
because we were hoping for the permits and
I know.
they were delayed for unknown reasons. And we have those permits now.
Yeah,
We have two more to go that are fairly simple now. We're waiting for the water board. We'll get those signed and we're ready to go for spring of next year.
unless there's eelgrass issues again. I mean, it's gonna.
We have all the permits for the eelgrass are done.
I know.
All the plans have been approved. And we're just waiting now it's just time. We've done everything we
I
can.
know.
It's
And I've told
very
them,
disheartening. It's been 10 years.
at least.
We've been working on this extremely hard since I got here 5 years ago, and we're still crazy. We still don't have the permits, final two permits, but again, we've been assured by both agencies that they're already in routing for signature, so.
Although we mentioned two permits, which two permits are those?
We're waiting on a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers and Marine Sanctuary.
Yeah, and they were kind of waiting for the water board. So all the ducks are lined up now, so hopefully they'll stay lined up.
All right, Commissioner Slater Carter.
Thank you. I would suggest that we either collect a log of people who are willing to help and or give out an address where people can send notes, either to the Army Corps of Engineer or even our state representative in Washington. or ours, and also bring it up as an action item for the candidates running for Congress. I think we need to do what we can for those that, the powers that be to understand that the rugs on the bottom here, that would be us, are very concerned about this, and they are the decision makers, and they need to send letters and encourage this to happen. And we can simply put out the facts that it's been needed to happen for 25 years.
Decades.
Yeah, decades, and due to an incident, it hasn't, people have been asking me about this too, and all I've said is, yeah, you know, the ducks are all in a row from the Harbor District end. It's the admin end that is causing the problems. And when Tom and I were in, and Jim were in Sacramento talking to legislators, I happened to bring stuff like that up. And they were shocked and amazed that the bureaucracy could short shrift a good project like this. But somebody need, and I believe the public are the best ones to tell the bureaucracies that this is important, that lives are at risk.
Would there be value on our website to lay out kind of a timeline on what happened with this permit process? Within
I
that,
think it's.
we do have in there now, is there indication in there where they can write? There's different levels of what's going on. There was the federal level. There was the marine sanctuary with the challenges of the eelgrass. That's the federal part. I think a bigger concern is kind of what happened at the state level. And I think there's a bigger challenge at the state level than the federal level. So where can they write to the resource agency? You know, maybe we could put that in the website that say, here's somebody you can contact.
Our consultant did put together a very, very thorough, and we have it detailed from the beginning of all of the permitting agencies and all the challenges that we had with each step as we progressed. So that has been just updated and is on our website. We could also, though, as you suggest, add some contact information where people could voice their concerns, disappointments, et cetera. I do tell everybody regretfully that, you know, we do have significant challenges with permitting with every project we have. That said, the alternative could be that we have challenges as do Florida, Texas, all other coastal states really, where they have huge buildings and, you know, construction taking place right on the coast. You know, our permitting challenges and our sanctuary protections that were a significant challenge with this unique project, they do save our lands, making them open more to the public. You know, and it's just not possible here in California for people to develop and have big condominiums, et cetera, right on the beach. This is a coastal project, and there are a lot of hoops we had to jump through, especially since this has to do with actually changing past policy law regarding the depositing of dredge spoils within a marine sanctuary. So I think our consultant Brad Damitz has done an excellent job navigating these challenges. I've been to, as is laid out in the new update that we just put on, we asked him to compile for us. All of the ended over the years. I think that it is true that the staff from all these agencies really did want us to be able to do this project and helped us. They were not personally, the human beings involved were not barriers. They were not fighting against us. They were more trying to actually assist in us navigating the challenges that were put in place. So it's definitely challenging, and any, input from the public is, would be very beneficial. So we'll try to put something up, that kind of gives them, some idea of where they could voice their concerns.
Okay, as long as it's not a back and forth. a
No,
comment.
it's so, I think the main thing for us, John, right now is I think the public thinks that we're part of the holdup. And we're not, and the other two, yeah, you're correct that, I guess the processes in California help protect, land, which I appreciate. But I also think that there is a lot of bureaucracy that's causing this, and I'm not talking about coastal commission stuff, because I think that's a whole host of issues. But when the state water board is, in my opinion, being a little negligent for whatever reason, and it's actually cost us our $800,000 grant, it becomes problematic, because one of the things that I know that Tom has expressed for years is that we go after grants. Well, we have gone after grants, right? So at this point, it's not about protection, because those processes are in place. It's about bureaucracy that's actually becoming an opportunity cost for us and delaying the project. And that's when time is money. And it's gonna just be more expensive. So that's, I think, putting this on the website is gonna be important, but I also think that we have to recognize that we probably should be, whatever progress is made, like I think we got 2 more grants or something like that, funding, or we're going after them. We need to just update our public, because they need to know that it's not us right now.
Any other comments? All right, in addition to what Commissioner Slater Carter said, we did talk about the dysfunction of all of our agencies and permitting. And in fact, I got an email from one of the other legislators' office that we visited suggesting that we address this issue with Berman's office. So that was a direct request. People are hearing about the dysfunction of the permitting agencies, and they asked specifically that we put together a group and talk to Berman's office about this. So to summarize, it was the Water Board, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Marine Sanctuaries that are holding up our process. And we're going to continue to work with them. My final comment is Coastside Fishing Club completed acclimating 750,000 Chinook salmon. And it's another successful year behind us. So with that, with no other comments, I will go to the activity reports. General Manager Pruitt, do you have anything to add to your report?
Nothing to add, except to point out, there are a few pictures in my report of the salmon release. So
Looked great.
it represents the release fairly well.
Part of that.
Operations Manager Moran. Anything to add?
Pillar Point Harbors, in the high 80% occupancy. I would like to recognize the hard work of Pillar Point Harbor staff, led by Assistant Harbor Master Dante Madrigal, with regard to replacing over 500 dock boards on H-dock. And that process is continuing with all of the docks. Our wooden floating docks are aged, over 30 years old, and the brackets underneath that hold the structure together, a lot of them have succumbed to corrosion, to rust, and our staff, Harbor Master Tibby and Assistant Harbor Master Madrigal, recognize this and are continuing to order the materials. The general manager's given us a green light to order and to get anything that is needed to continue to keep these docks in serviceable condition, and staff are doing so. And I'd also like to just say that the Pillar Point Harbor staff again yesterday evening responded to a body down at Cow Ranch Beach. Regretfully, the person was deceased, but the staff was able to um, to retrieve the body. You know, and I'm certain that the family members be very appreciative. It was, the body ended up being at a very difficult location, a beach that's surrounded by cliffs that was not even possible to rappel into. So our staff were the only assets that were able to take the rescue vessel and the jet ski there, and two staff got on the jet ski and went in and retrieved the body, brought it back to our boat, and then brought it back to Pillar Point Harbor to the culture. It's a regretful situation, but our staff did an excellent job in that. And at Oyster Point, we've been hovering at highest occupancy in decades. I'm still around 80% occupancy there. Staff have been doing a great job with continuing all facility maintenance, et cetera. And I would also like to mention that last month, Deputy Harbor Master Pemberton and Toller responded to an emergency call for a person in distress, a windsurfer, and were able to quickly assess the situation and respond and rescue the person who didn't require any medical condition because of their quick response, or didn't require any medical assistance because of the quick response, were able to retrieve the person and get them back to safety at the Oyster Point Marina. They were directed at the time and by radio to the location and updated constantly by Assistant Harbor Master Walding. So again, an excellent job by that team.
I think one of the key points you also brought up was that Pillar Point at 80% is one of the lowest occupancy rates I've heard for quite some time. And that's a reflection of rockfish, salmon, Dungeness crab problems in the fishery and other commercial fisheries. So it's tough on everybody. The weather has been not conducive to boating. So I look forward to better weather and fishing to get the occupancy back closer to 100%. Director of Administration and Finance, would you like to add to your report?
Thank you, President Matoush. We're beginning the implementation of a new ERP system onboarding module that just became available. And implementing the open enrollment health benefit functionality. We spent quite a bit of time trying to implement an online personal action form process. I just this morning received message from the implementer at Tyler Tech that the functionality is still not up to date. So we're gonna postpone that until August now. We're also implementing a security information and event management software that was at the recommendation of the grand jury a few years back. This is one of the last things that we need to do in order to cross all the T's of that grand jury report to make sure that the district's data is secure as possible. Thank you.
Moving on to the consent calendar, I did have a request, however bizarrely written, to pull item 10. So do we have a report, motion to approve items 1 through 9?
So moved.
Second.
Right, there's been a motion and a second for items 1 through 9 on the consent calendar. Do we have a roll call, please?
President Matoush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Domrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang.
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
All right, moving on to discussion item G, number 1, San Mateo County Harbor District 2024 elections. General Manager Pruitt.
Morning, President Matoush. It's hard to believe it's been 4 years or coming up on 4 years already since the first district elections for the San Mateo County Harbor District. So districts 1, 4, and 5 are up for election this year. And the resolution that we're requesting the board adopt calls for that election to be held on November 5th, 2024, for those three districts of 1, 4, and 5. It also authorizes the general manager to enter into the agreements that we normally enter into agreements for elections with the county to cover their costs in conducting our election. The other form is attached is the candidacy form and incumbent list, and authorizing or directing them that the candidates will be responsible to pay for their own comments in the ballot, and letting them know who is incumbents and contact information for that. So this is almost identical to what we did 4 years ago for these three districts. It's identical to what we did 2 years ago for the other districts. It's just updated dates for the 2024 election. Any questions? That is the report.
Just one comment. I don't disagree with this. On the form, I think some of the dates may be wrong and you have George Dahmer as District 1 and me as District 2, and it should be reversed. George is number 2, I'm number 1.
Yeah.
I'm just the way they cut it. Just so I don't confuse the elections
Oh,
board.
that sounds great.
And also the dates of the most recent election, I think those dates are off by a year.
Okay.
I was in the November 2020, not 2019. And George, I think you were on 2022, not 2021.
2022.
Right.
Correct.
So just, those dates are just a year off.
Okay. I'll correct those and get those in.
Yeah, Bill, you said yours was November of 20, it was actually 2020.
2020, that's
Yeah.
correct. All three of those.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 2413?
I will so move
With the correction.
with the
I'll
corrections.
second.
Okay, motion and second. Could we have a roll call on this item?
Commissioner Zemke, Commissioner Domrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Corrali,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Yes.
President Mathush.
Aye. All right, moving on to item G2. Call for election, Special District Selection Committee, mail ballot to elect alternate special district member on San Mateo, LAFCO. General Manager Pruitt.
LAFCO's alternative or special district seat on their LAFCO board for the alternate is opening up, and they're seeking candidates for the term to expire May 2028. And the board so wishes, they can make a nomination of somebody to that seat. The electronic authorization for electronic ballot can be signed by the general manager, and I'll take care of that. So unless the board would wishes to make a recommendation as to the alternate, there's no further action required by this board this time. It's only if you want to make a nomination.
So, I think this alternate seated would be my alternate.
Yes.
The seat
Right.
that you took, yeah.
Yeah, so I appreciate this board and I'm so grateful that y'all supported me to be the special district representative. And so the alternate would be mine from my seat. And I would like to nominate Catherine. I know that she's had a lot of interest in LAFCO and she's a huge supporter and advocate for special districts. So I couldn't think of anyone better who would represent special districts than Catherine.
Thank you. I've been nominated by MWS. My whole interest in this has been since at MWSD, we were leading the charge on getting seats for special districts on LAFCO. You know, may or may not know that there are LAFCOs that do not have special district seats on them. And I think it's important for special districts to have a long and loud history of standing up for ourselves, because there's a whole lot of other folks who, you see special districts disappear. Or get consolidated into more manageable large units.
Discussion.
I think it's a wonderful idea.
Let's restate the motion with the,
I'll move to nominate Catherine Slater Carter to be the San Mateo County LAFCO Special Alternate Member.
perfect. Got a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call on this item, please?
Commissioner Domrat,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter,
Yes.
President Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Yes.
All right, moving right on to item G3. Final operating budget and 5-year capital improvement program. Finance Director Van Hoff, your item.
Thank you, President Mathush. Good morning, Commissioners. This item was presented as the preliminary budget on April 17th for fiscal year 24-25. We published a notice in the San Mateo County Journal that a public meeting would be held today to hear the final budget. The differences between the preliminary budget and the final budget is there's a decrease in expected property tax revenues because we received more accurate information. And so we decreased that a bit. We took out $800,000 due to an expired grant, capital contribution, and we offset that by a decrease in capital expenditures of the same amount due to beams and pilings at Johnson Pier being deemed to be stable and not in need of replacement at this time. The 2024 projection for this year versus the 2025 final budget expects revenues to increase. Get to that page. Operating revenues are budgeted to increase by 5.9% due to the projected inflationary increase in fees of 3.7% that this board adopted at the last meeting, and an increase in lease revenue associated with the Pillar Point Harbor Retail Center. Non-operating revenues are budgeted to increase by less than 1% to a projected increase in property taxes of 4.3%, but that's offset by lower estimated interest expense due to a projected decrease in cash balances. Salaries, wages, and benefit expenditures are projected to increase by 3.6% due to estimated salary, wage, and benefit cost increase, along with being fully staffed. There currently is only one vacancy within the district. Non-personnel expenditures are budgeted to increase by 20.1%. And for fiscal year 2025, there's an anticipated increase in costs of approximately 3.7% due to inflationary increases, an increase of 17% for PG&E bills, and more expenditures for surfers beach monitoring costs, eelgrass monitoring, and consulting services for a potential ballot measure to fund search and rescue. The 2025 budget also includes $900,000 in biennial election costs. I won't go through the capital projects that we've decided to continue to fund. That was the same as in the preliminary budget. And in January of 2024, the district purchased several parcels. So staff is going to be very careful in watching our fund balances right now. If we go to the long-term planning section, we can see that if you look at fiscal year 2025, the total ending working capital balance is $5.2 million. And of that, we are obligated to set aside 3.4 million in reserves. That leaves a cushion of about $1.8 million. The 5 years summary, going into more detail on that, shows operating revenue. We expect that to continue to increase by 2.5%, which is the average inflationary increase over years. Salaries and benefits to increase by 5%, and property tax revenues to decrease by 1%. As we've discussed before, the commercial property market right now, we don't know what's going to happen to that, but there's a lot of appeals in the queue. If all the appeals were to go through, that would be decrease in property taxes of more than that 1% that we're estimating. So we'll also keep a close eye on that. We're also expected to use very little of our money on capital projects after this year. That will allow us to build back up some of our cash balances. And so in fiscal year 2029, we're expected to have a cash balance of $10.4 million, which then can be used to fund additional capital projects in the future. In addition to the financial information, we also updated the district's goals for the next fiscal year. But the first goal here is to improve the water quality at the beaches at Pillar Point. The second one is to earn clean unmodified opinion, as we have in the last 5-6 years. Create plans, a training plan and a cybersecurity plan. Progress on capital improvement projects, which includes the Oyster Point Marina replacement project, preliminary engineering and design for docks 12, 13, and 14. The East Outer Harbor Dredge project for Surfers Beach replenishment, Eelgrass. Oyster Point Marina access ramp replacement of docks 1 through 6. Pillar Point Harbor Launch ramp, restroom, and boat wash replacement to identify funding and move forward with that project, and to replace the Johnson Pier electric upgrades. Improve availability to provide maritime search and rescue and maritime assists. The ad hoc committees will assist with moving the district goals and projects forward, including dredge sediment, sea level rise, PPH, Retail Center, Ocean Science Center, Search and Rescue, Maritime Assists, Pillar Point, Breakwater Environmental Impact, and a logo committee. We also would like to update the strategic plan. Northern Half Moon Bay coastal erosion, sea level rise mitigation and prevention, to draft a long-term prevention plan, review and update the 2018 Oyster Point Marina agreement with the city of South San Francisco, and continue to maintain the floating docks and extend the life by doing maintenance programs on our docks. So that concludes the brief presentation. If you have any questions or comments, we'd be happy to take those.
Comment wise, I got a chuckle out of the 17% increase in PG&E, and it says the 70% increase in PG&E rates will not result in enhanced services. That amused me.
Well, that's what I asked to be put in there,
Yeah.
because I didn't want people to think that we're the ones who are raising this, and that the
Yeah.
PG&E problems are not really, are capped. That may actually have a trickle down effect where we may have to increase.
Yeah.
Right, and that's problematic.
Any other comments?
Well, I just want to thank staff for the hard work they put in on doing this budget. I know it's bounced back and forth several times, so thanks again.
I'll second that too. Thanks, Julie and Rochelle.
Michelle. too.
Ciao.
There a motion to adopt
I have
resolution?
a quick question. In it, you talk about improving the water quality at Pillar Point Harbor. That's a great goal, but there's so many other variables contributing to that. I don't want that to be held against us that we didn't do it when all the creek drainage has been modified over the last 100 years and you get rainwater and other things. I think it's a great concept, but I'd love to see a comment added in something to the extent that we are legally and fiscally able to, or something like that, because number one, a general overall statement like that is hard to read and believe for some of us. And for others, they see it as a weapon. And it's a great idea. I'd love to get the Pillar Point Harbor back to the original water quality it was before man walked on this earth. But as soon as the creeks rain and the runoff from the upper animal habitats comes in, it's already polluted before we even talk about us. And we have
That's
no
true.
control
Out
over
of our
that.
control. Yeah.
We need to differentiate the zones of where water quality improvements can be made by us. In other words, at the creek mouths, we really can't, but within the enclosed portion of the harbor, maybe we just make sure that those areas can be kept as clean as possible based on what, the vessels would put in or what we're doing there. So maybe we just need to have a definition, because there's nothing we're gonna be able to do at these creek mouths until the county or the local community assists us in cleaning up the creeks. So maybe we need to add something to that says, here's our goal, is to keep this area at least clean from pollutants that would come from our vessels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'd like to just add real quick that the San Mateo County Harbor District has been a designated certified clean marine facility since 2013. That was led largely by Assistant Harbor Master Walding,
Okay.
and our teams at both Pillar Point Harbor and Oyster Point Marina have continued to renew those certifications, which is a extensive inspection process. And we are in the process now, again, led by Assistant Harbor Master Walding, to renew additional 5 years. And in addition, our general manager, I think he can speak to even more, but MDL and to make sure that we're doing everything possible as our county to keep all water quality as clean as possible, identify challenges and correct them.
I think that's a wonderful point, and maybe we want to say just maintain our clean water award or something. That gives us a brownie point for having it and brownie points for moving forward with what we can control.
And the clean water or clean facility certification, we go beyond that with respect to clean water in the harbor with our inspection of the sewer lines, our maintaining of the restrooms, our replacing of restrooms at the launch ramp is on the schedule. The way we clean the docks adds to the water quality. The way we enforce the no dumping from our tenants of sewage in the water with the dye tabs and the locking of the overboard valves, and then our inspections. So there's much more than just the clean facility checkbox that we earn, and we should earn that as a matter of routine. The TMDL goes beyond that, and we're matching up to that TMDL. And we're part of a partnership with everybody in this region, all the government agencies involved with stormwater runoff and public education about picking up your trash, dump things down the stormwater, things like that. So we do have a role in clean water. We can't prevent it from coming in our harbor, but we do have controls and stuff over in our harbor, and then also public education before getting to our harbor. And that's all part of that.
Exactly, but I remember several local government agencies screaming about how polluted the water in Pillar Point Harbor is, and we should get rid of dogs, and we should get rid of people, and we should get rid of boats, and oh gosh, we should even get rid of the breakwater just to keep the water clean and circulating. You know, we're doing so much, and I just want us to get credit for it without everybody looking at, with acknowledging there are things that need and will continue to need to be done. But we're way ahead of that. So that's the point of my comment is making improvements, but we can't improve the trash that comes in that's dumped off of, well, years ago, the marine, the radioactive waste that was dumped off Navy submarines just outside the harbor here. That stopped, I believe.
Staff would be happy to try to put some additional language into that goal to make it clear that we can only do as much as we have control over.
Right, and otherwise I suggest we approve it and maybe just amend that one thing later down the road, but let's get the budget moving with this approval.
Speaking of which, is there a motion to adopt resolution 2411 approving the fiscal year 2025 operating budget and 5-year capital improvement program?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
President Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Domrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Yes, of course.
Okay, item 4, G4, Ocean Science Center Ad Hoc Committee Report. And this will be Ms. Modina's report.
Thank you, President Mateusz and Commissioners. I'm happy to be here this morning. I'm just going to provide a very quick overview of all the activities that have been happening in the last month with this ad hoc committee. And then I'll turn it over to the true owners of this, Commissioner Domrat and Commissioner Slater Carter for further input and any questions. So the committee met on May 15th, really getting an overview of what educational and outreach opportunities are already happening within the district. There's not much happening at Oyster Point Marina, but at Pillar Point, our training officer reported that we're serving about 2,200 individuals, mainly school age students coming through with a focus on water safety. And we also talked about the next steps for public engagement to help define the scope within this committee. On May 30th, the committee went and visited the Marine Science Institute in Redwood City, really trying to get an overview of their programming. They actually provide a field trip over to the tide pools at Pillar Point Harbor, which I thought was really interesting and had a lot of potential for partnership there. And that they have a $1.7 million annual budget, but they also employ 3 full-time people just to focus on development out of that Marine Science Institute. On May 31st, I met with Deborah Hurst, a community member who was interested in our partnership to replace the interpretive educational signs at Pillar Point Harbor. And it became very apparent that she would be better served to meet with Commissioner Domerat and Commissioner Slater Carter. So they met on June 4th down at Pillar Point Harbor to get a better understanding of the scope of that educational project. We're working on a site visit to the Estuary and Ocean Science Center at, in San Francisco and along with the Bay Model. And then we also met this morning for a quick ad hoc committee meeting. And I don't have the summary for that yet, but it's been a very busy time. Our ad hoc committee. Turn it back over for any questions or details.
Commissioners.
I'd just like to say it was a fabulous trip. The Ocean Science Center and this concept really has two kind of separable pieces to it. One is kind of potential for a research facility for universities, colleges, invited. Then the educational portion. They interact and will interact in the future, but they are separable elements. So the first trip we did to the Marine Science Institute, they've been around for, I'll probably get this wrong, at least 20, 25 years. They've been providing that service at Redwood City Harbor. They have vessels. They take children out into the bay for marine science. They have a small aquarium. Very much interested in working together with us in some kind of partnership. We haven't really defined what that may be, but they are also we're very accommodating in wanting to come and bring species in their little portable tanks to the harbor to do whatever, like a ocean day at the harbor type of thing, if we would so choose in the future. They're very willing to work with us together with that. There may be some other kind of practicalities working with them in terms of them already being a 501c3 nonprofit. So we're still trying to figure out our way through this. The other activity that will come up will be visiting the Army Corps of Engineers Bay Model. This was an engineering tool that was built with a visitor center around it to explain things about the bay and how these tools used to work. And it's a good standalone educational type of portion. And then the final one, at least for now, will be the Tiburon Marine Lab of San Francisco State University. That's pure research. There's no real visitor center there. They will come. So we'll get an idea of these different kinds of concepts to the direction we want to go in the future. So again, to the Marine Science Institute people, Rochelle and others who set that up.
And that was not only a great trip, but we met with the on the migrating mural. And Inkwell, one of our local art businesses, is involved with this. As and I'm sorry, I'm bad with names, Deborah Hurst and two other wonderful women who I know. One's from Michelle.
The sanctuary, Jenny Stock.
Yes.
And I haven't met.
And we're talking to them about putting murals, local life on our buildings. And finding a way to spark interest in what really goes, the underpinnings of why this is a fishing harbor and the life that we don't see on the coast. Taking it from a different angle other than the Marine Reserve. And so I'm looking forward to reporting to the board on this and making progress. I believe one of the reasons I'm involved and George is involved is because the visitors at the harbor have increased tremendously since COVID. And yet they come in and all they see are fishing boats and a beach and maybe some the little aquatic kayaks and a place or two to eat and drink. I'd like to be able to turn it into more a knowledge base for people because it's been my experience. I worked and volunteered in education for many, many years. And people care about what they know about. And so if we're talking about keeping the inside of the harbor clean, if we're talking about releasing salmon smolts and things like that, it would be nice for people to know all the stuff that this harbor is doing and that the world is doing. So they can take an interest in it. And so we're just starting on this. We have George and I have a lot of homework to do. And so we'll just keep reporting on it. First things we're doing by visiting these is sort of the first steps in homework and what other folks have done, which is pretty exciting. And so so yeah, I look forward to getting more information and bringing it to the board and seeing where our homework leads us in terms of structure and associations. I think these kinds of associations can help us, for instance, with regulatory agencies. We can then put on our website, working to educate the public. It turns out from my public relations work that I did in a former career, women are generally the drivers of choices on many things in households, and they want to bring their kids to somewhere where they can learn something and have fun and everybody can get out, and the dads just want a good bench to sit on and watch the cars go by. So we're trying to provide both comfy benches too.
The only thing I would add is one of our ideas would be to bring Deborah Hurst and her team to our next meeting as an agenda item, so they can kind of present to the whole board. They have some photographs where they've imprinted on our bathroom facility at the pier, some beautiful murals and stuff to give the whole board an idea of what this. Yeah, we have them. We have some pictures, but we invited them, and I think we invited them to this meeting, but they thought it was a little too soon. So we're going to target the next meeting, I think, to have them come in and give us a little presentation on their ideas, not only for painting some of our buildings, but also replacing some of our own interpretive boards with new ones. So be something to look forward to.
Public comment on this issue? Hearing none, that was an information report. So moving on to item G5, workplace violence prevention plan. And I see someone's up at the podium to give us a report.
Yes. So thank you very much. So before you is our new workplace violence prevention plan. According to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, workplace violence is the second leading cause of fatal occupational injuries in the United States. And that statistic was kind of really struck me, and really we know as a community that no community really is untouched by workplace violence. And so on September 30th, 2023, SB 533 was signed into law. And that really set some deadlines and requirements for workplace prevention plans throughout the state. Our plan will be in place by July 1st, which is that new mandate. And the district has an existing policy against workplace violence, but the new legislation significantly expands the requirements, including staff training, site assessments to address environmental issues, to reduce the risks of workplace violence, and to also be kind of assessing the physical environment and taking action to reduce any of those risks that are identified. And that there's a significant reporting and data collection requirement with the new workplace violence prevention plan.
Any comments from our commissioners?
Thanks for doing this work, because when I read this, I was surprised too. I mean, it was an eye opener and very enlightening, so thanks for doing this. I mean, I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
I see potential or workplace violence, but I don't see a definition of that. This district has gone through some horrific times. The application
That's a good point.
of of some state regulations that got shifted into a personal vendetta. I want to protect our board and our employees from undergoing accusations of violence.
False accusations.
The accusations
Yeah.
of violence, some of which may be false and others should be investigated. But it is a very, very traumatic thing. And I'm sorry, I was just talking about this. No, I'm not sorry. I was just talking about this with a friend and we were talking about how little boys can chew a peanut butter sandwich into a gun and shoot it. Bang, bang. And that's not necessarily violence. That's sort of developmental sculpture and kinds of things. But it can be taken and applied in a very punitive and terrible way. And so I want to see in this a strong definition. What is violence? I've never been falsely accused, but I know people who have in other industries, and it can ruin your life. And I have seen people making accusations who believe it so much. But it was a cultural difference, and somebody was saying, you know, hey, you know, I'm gonna shoot and I'm gonna slash your tires or whatever. And that's was kind of a silly joke, but it happens. Not the slashing, but the silly jokes. And so I want to protect our employees from harassment and from and I think we need to have this policy. But generally written things anymore, having watched politics for a long time, generally written things can often be expanded and used in a punitive way when there was nothing intended. So a good solid protective definition is what I'm looking for.
Commissioner Jen Crowley.
So Rochelle, Catherine has brought up excellent points. So the workplace violence definition is probably in this Labor Code 6401.9, but that's different from probably what harassment is. But I agree with Catherine, having lived through some of that, right? And not even for the board so much as for our employees. But I don't know if there's how big of a separation there is in the definition between harassment and workplace violence, because violence, this is a lot of it is physical violence that's addressed here, is what threats and that kind of thing. But the intent that this board is, well, that the intent of some of the experience that this board has had and some of our former staff members may be different from this, the definition of workplace violence, but that doesn't mean that it's not, considering the very outward intent of former commissioners. And I don't know how, I mean, are we supposed to define that in our policy vis-a-vis this labor code section?
If I may, Commissioner Crowley, this is specific to workplace violence. We're required by law now to have a workplace violence policy, and this is what this is filling. What the other half of what you're referencing is anti-prevention or we're free of
Harassment.
harassment,
Yeah.
anti-harassment. That's a separate policy from this.
The result is,
But this policy specifically goes to workplace violence, which is defined as any act of violence or threat of violence that occurs in the workplace. That includes physical force against an employee that results in or has a high likelihood of resulting in injury, psychological trauma, stress, regardless of whether the employee sustains an injury, an incident involving a threat or use of a firearm or a dangerous weapon, including common objects used as weapons. And then it breaks it down into 4 different levels or types of violence. So it's separate from the harassment claims. It's the same investigation. Okay,
I understand that, right?
I just wanted to
But
make.
what
clear.
I'm saying is that, I mean, I think Catherine brings up a good point about what is the definition of violence? And I get that here. But psychological trauma, I mean, what some of our staff members and what some of the board members, former board members have sustained, you could probably say psychological trauma. I mean, it resulted in a former board member back in 2015 resigning from the board because she felt that her safety was threatened. And I understand the constitutional, conundrum as public figures under the First Amendment of the US Constitution. But, the public who made this former commissioner feel threatened, yeah, I mean, feels or felt like he or she had a constitutional right. But to me, that's an act of violence because she, and I know, because I had to talk, I replaced her. She still has stress from that. And so I don't want any other board members and our staff to have to deal with that. And I get it. I get that this is a physical thing, but that is what happened to this former commissioner is more than harassment. It goes beyond that. There was an intent to intimidate and probably to oust her from the board. And so how is that defined in this definition? Because to me, that goes beyond harassment. And I think that's what Catherine is saying is, how is that defined? That is a very clear example. I replaced this commissioner and I know what happened. So that's the thing that I'm trying to understand. And how do we account for that in this policy?
Well, I'd like to bring us back to the point of this is to approve the district's workplace violence prevention plan. I think that if we want to get into some things specifics in the past, perhaps that could be another agendized item. But I'd like to get us kind of back on track of adopting this. And I'm going to say, is there any public comment on item G5?
Have to be adopted today? It would,
I suggest we adopt it, but that
And then
we
amend it.
work on amending it to have a good solid definition that is protective of our staff and our board members. I worked with, I can't even tell you how many cultures, different cultures on a daily basis in my former job. And I don't know if the public at large understands about in certain cultures, there are comments that are sort of normal that we take as threat, could be taken in the US as threats. And the trick for us as owner operators and personnel managers was trying to make sure that everybody was safe. And cultural things didn't get in the way, but so I suggest we approve this, but that we work for, I did not read the legal references, for instance. I admit, but I think we need to have more than just violence as the definition.
Matoush, if I might, the definition in the word, in the policy reflects the definition in the bill.
In the code, yeah.
Yeah. I was just wondering maybe what more specific, it might be helpful to understand what more specific definition of violence you'd want.
I'm willing to sit and work with you, but I believe that we should read it more carefully.
Definition at the state level, I mean, it's pretty broad vis-a-vis our local experience. How can we incorporate our local experience into our workplace and violence
Yeah.
prevention plan?
So let me talk about that. The second part of it is, this is for employees, right? And I think the example that you're describing is more elected board members.
Well, but you know, it's also been with staff, previous staff members, and actually.
Member though.
And I believe.
From a board member to the staff member.
Right.
But that board member, or some board members, believe they were employees.
Right.
So under their definition, they viewed themselves as employees whenever.
Under the law, they're not. And
That
so,
was fuzzy even at that time.
so a lot of times what bodies will do, especially when you're dealing with elected officials, and I think you have that here, which is come up with some sort of a code of conduct, because it's very difficult when you're talking about elected officials, it's
I know.
difficult to punish and enforce. It almost has to be kind of a self-policing thing, which is why boards will have their own code of conduct. So this is intended to deal with employees, and then a code of conduct is typically, a local code of conduct is typically used to deal with the conduct of elected board members.
Are you saying that if a board member, I guess, threatened or induced violence under this definition that against an employee, that would not be subject to this interpretation?
I think that this would apply to anybody being threatened, and the definition includes threats or physical use of force. I mean, it's more than abusive, it's violence, or threats of violence. Yeah.
I mean, but the board member isn't technically an employee.
But and I don't know enough about what you're talking about, so maybe we could talk offline about how to deal with
Okay,
that.
But this, I'm happy to approve this, but I do think that we need to do something where we make amendments that would be applicable to our current local harbor district. Not current, but our local harbor district.
Commissioner Domerat.
I kind of tried to search through it. Maybe I just didn't see it. In terms of any kind of corrective action, is counseling a part of the plan? Is there a requirement by the county or the state that counselors are available? So depending on the level of threat, it could be that a counselor intervention would be kind of one of the first steps, probably after notification of a supervisor, if it's not that egregious that you don't have to call the police, but maybe a counselor can help. Is that part of the plan that you know of?
It's not necessarily called out as part of the plan because each incidence of violence will have its unique circumstances and levels of severity. But I have every belief in our commissioners that, should we have a catastrophic event, we would care for our employees. And we also have our employee assistance program where we could quickly have an emergency response to connect our employees to that kind of psychological support in the event of a violent event.
You can answer my question about how can we amend this to fit what we how, I mean, this is, like I said, broader than, I mean, how can we amend this to make it more applicable to the Harbor District? I mean, let's approve this, but I think we should keep working on, so I'll make a motion to approve the district's workplace violence prevention plan. But I also want to continue working on possible amendments.
I'll second that with the addition of continuing to work on possible amendments. I believe somewhere in here I read that this also applies to board members,
It does.
commissioners. Yes,
Right.
It
You
applies
found, I
to-
think you found it, right?
It
Jim?
applies to employees, elected officials, volunteers, contractors, customers, and visitors to the district.
Very
And
broad.
This is to protect our employees.
yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call?
President Mateusz?
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
Commissioner Domrat?
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Crowley?
Aye.
Commissioner Slater?
Yes, as amended. As stated in the motion.
All right, moving on to item G6. Authorize San Mateo County Harbor District to join the California Asset Management Program. Director of Finance, Ben Hoff.
Yes, thank you. On May 15th, 2024, this board directed staff to contract with optimized investment partners in order to try to obtain higher yields with our cash balances. This is part of the implementation of that contract with Optimize. Optimize came back and said, open up an investment account with US Bank and open up an account with CAMP. And then they will meet with us and provide an investment recommendations to move some of the funds into the CAMP and some of the funds to go out and actually purchase treasury securities or stuff like that. So this resolution would be attached to the CAMP. We also have signature forms that we'll ask the treasurer and the president to sign after this meeting. But adoption of this resolution will allow us to continue to move forward with optimized investment services. Thank you.
Commissioner comments.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to authorize us to join the camp and adopt resolution 24-14. I think it's a great idea.
Want to read the entire motion so we know where.
Yeah, so I make a motion to authorize the Harbor District to join the California Asset Management Program CAMP and adopt resolution 24-14.
I'll second that.
All right, great. Is there any public comment on this issue? Hearing none, will General Manager Pruitt, would you like to do a roll call for us?
Commissioner Domron,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Shane Carley,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carr.
Yes.
All right. Moving on to item G7. I flip my page. Real property lease, Surfers Beach RV Park. And we do have a public comment on this. Read into the record. To San Mateo County Harbor District, date June 12th, 2024, regarding public comment on discussion agenda item 7, real property lease, Surfers Beach RV Park. First, please make the proposed lease agreement available to the public. It was not attached to the online agenda. The San Mateo County Harbor District should not renew Pillar Point Harbors LLC's lease until they have fully complied with their responsibilities under the after the fact coastal development permit, which was approved July 9th, 2019. Half Moon Bay Planning Commission approved PDP 18006. This CDP required placement of the RV park landscape screening. Pillar Point Harbor LLC has been in violation of this agreement for almost 5 years now. I submit to you that this commission's responsibility to ensure that PPH LLC is in compliance. Please take all necessary actions to force PPH LLC to immediately take action to fulfill their part of the agreement and replace the RV park landscape screening according to the requirements of the CDP. And it's signed from Edmundo Lorenas. So that's our public comment on this issue.
There was one in the packet from, there was another public comment. So there are two public comments that we got for this item.
Okay. I'm not seeing that one right
It's,
now.
it's online. It's, from Lisa Ketchum, kind of saying something very similar to what this email said.
Is there any public comment in this room? Fill out a comment card with your name and what you're going to comment on, but you can do that after the fact. Go ahead and.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Chris Rogers. I'm a resident of El Granada, live just up the street here. My home looks out onto Obispo, across the Burnham Strip, and directly at the Pillar Point RV Park. So I am here to underscore and amplify some of the points that were made not only by Mr. Lorenas, but also in Lisa Ketchum's letter. The view to the horizon of the ocean is the public resource that was intended to be protected and preserved by the requirement to, if not eliminate, at least keep those trees down below the horizon line. And my view is that horizon line, and I share that view with a lot of neighbors who also enjoy and value that aesthetic asset. It's good. It's an important part of our, our well-being and our enjoyment of living here on the coast. So again, to paraphrase the conditions of approval of the coastal development permit that was referenced, within 120 days, there was to be a final landscape plan and fencing plan. The conditions of approval also include removal and replacement of all the landscape screening along Highway 1, including the large cypress trees. It includes coordination with the Beach House Hotel, which shares a north property line with the RV park, and where trees have gone unpruned and unmaintained. And also includes replacement of the screening of the RV park with low vegetation that doesn't obstruct the view. And the installation of all of this, of these changes in the landscaping and fencing was to be implemented within 240 days of the approval of the permit. So you're 1,580 days behind schedule on this at this point. I was going to speak on this matter to implore the Harbor District in its consideration of renewal of the lease of the RV park to use that leverage to force the RV park to do the work that it was committed to. But then I realized that actually the Harbor District is a co-permittee. And so I'm asking you to abide by your commitment to maintain these trees, get them down. I know they were pruned down low a couple of years ago, but they are in the neighborhood of 30, 35 feet tall now. They're well above the horizon line. And then the ones along the beach hotel are at about 60 feet.
To wrap this up, you had 2 minutes and right now you're 3.
All right. Thank you for your time.
There's also a message to the entire board from Lisa Ketchum to the Planning Commission, basically requesting a little extra information. And some of it includes the CDP. I'm not gonna go back and read that again. And she's requesting a copy from Half Moon Bay. Was the RV park landscape fencing plan submitted, approved? May I have a copy? What is the status of the after the fact RV park CDP, given this lack of compliance with conditions of approval? The Harbor District has agendized a lease amendment for the RV park, responsibilities and authorities to the leased property following completion of the new surface beach restroom. For the Harbor District, may I have a higher res image of the proposed RV park lease area? Will the district be responsible for implementing RV landscape screening modifications required by the after the fact CDP? Sincerely, Lisa Ketchum, Moss Beach. I believe that a lot of this will be explained with General Manager Pruitt's presentation of this matter. General Manager.
I'd like to make a comment beforehand. There was no copy of the lease attached to my packet. And I think that we should discuss the public comment at a future meeting, so that we can resolve it with distinct comments to these complaints, but I think that this particular lessee negotiates in good faith for what benefits his company. I don't see that we're improving our income stream, but without having a specific lease to read and available to the public, we shouldn't even be discussing this until the public has a copy of the lease.
I'm puzzled that I had a copy of the lease, and I went to the Harbor District website and I clicked on the agenda to find it. And is it just the commissioners that didn't get it, or how did a member of the public not get it when I brought it up on my agenda?
Well, I didn't see it on the electronic one, but we got an email from the general manager about this draft lease before, but if you go to the agenda item online, because that's how I've been reading my packet, there's an attachment for resolution 24-15, and there's a link to that. But there's no link to the new properties lease between the Harbor District and Pillar Point Harbor with the RV Park LLC.
Okay, maybe that's how I got mine.
That you got the email from the general manager. So I'm not even sure, Jim. Why? I can see why we wouldn't have it in
On
here.
Friday, we published the agenda for this meeting. And
Right.
it was our intent to publish the lease on Friday if it was completed, but we didn't finish negotiating the fine details until last night or yesterday. At which
that's when we
point
got the
we
email.
finalized it, and I sent a copy to everybody. My mistake was not to publish it online at that same time. It will be posted on the agenda right after that, and I'll be going over some of the details in the lease. If the board wants to place this item on hold, that's the board's discretion, but I recommend if we do that, that we call a special meeting as soon as possible afterwards to review and approve or not approve this motion, because the current occupancy will expire at the end of the
End of
month.
this month, yeah. Well, I think give your report, as Tom said, so that everyone can hear, the public can hear what has gone on.
But it should,
We don't have to vote on it today.
think we are in violation of state law if we vote on a lease that hasn't been read. The Violation of
think
our,
so.
our local pledge to citizens of San Mateo County to vote on a lease that they haven't had a chance to examine.
I'm not disagree with you on,
I agree with,
it should have been published before the meeting.
I agree
I
with.
wasn't able to do that.
Yeah,
I was hoping to.
Oh, could we just cover what's in
the staff.
the lease now, approve this and move forward?
I want a written copy to mark up.
One person out of five.
I'd like to hear what our general manager has to say about the lease, you
Yeah.
know, and then we can decide.
I agree that we have to be as
Let's
transparent
just,
as possible. Well, hold on,
Let the
Tom.
general manager,
I know,
we
but
got this habit of free flowing information.
well,
And we're
Tom,
trying
this
to
is
get
a
a.
public discussion. And right now, I mean, I suggested that we have the general manager go through his report, but I also agree with Commissioner Slater Carter that in to honor full transparency, you know, and to be fair to in the public process that, you know, we might want to take her viewpoint and go that direction. But that's why I suggested the general manager should go through this first, and I think that Bill agrees. And so I'm just saying that we're in a little conundrum right now because this lease is obviously controversial. I think it's only fair to the public, and I don't think it's a good idea to just, you know, blindly go through this and approve this until we can hear this side and actually have the public look at this. But I agree. I mean, maybe after Jim's report, we do approve it. But that's not to say we're going to approve it.
General Manager Pruitt, please proceed.
Morning, Commissioner Matoush, Commission. This issue concerns a new lease for Pillar Point Harbor LLC to lease the piece of property that is currently operating the Pillar Point Harbor RV park near Surfers Beach. The new lease is a significant change from the old lease. It increases the monthly rent from $2,500 to $15,782. It also implements a cost of living increase every year that is either 3% or the consumer price index, whichever is greater. The term of the lease will be initially 2 years, and we're doing the initial 2-year lease to make sure that if, as part of the lease, the CDP has been made part of the lease and failure to comply with all aspects of the CDP will be considered a default, and the district does not have to renew the lease after the 2 years if the tenant is in default. And that's again requiring full compliance with the CDP. The term after that would be a 3-year lease, so a total of 5. And then 2 or 3 additional options for 3-year or 10-year. Options of 3 additional years provided 10 is not default, so 5 years. And then 5-year terms after that. The lease area for the RV park has significantly been reduced. The prior lease leased the entire area, including where the new restroom project is. That has been removed from the leased area, and so has an area. 6 RV spots have also been removed along Highway 1 at the entrance to the RV park and turned into public parking for the restroom and green space project, which the Harbor District is responsible for. Going to the leaf itself, the coastal paragraph 2 of the lease, it provides that coastal development permit, the tenant shall, at tenant's sole cost and expense, perform all work required of tenant pursuant to July 9th, 2019 coastal development permit. And the tenant shall, on October 1st, 2024, January 1st, 2025, April 1st, 2025, and July 1st, 2025, provide the landlord a written update on tenant's progress towards continuing compliance with the requirements of the coastal development permit. And as I mentioned before, tenant's failure to fulfill its obligations under the coastal amendments within the 365 days of the effective date of this lease shall be an event of default, subject to termination pursuant to section 18 of the lease. The tenant is also required to remodel and replace the existing restroom facility within the RV park to make it fully ADA compliant with timelines to meet that requirement. Go through real quick to highlight some of the questions that were or option to renew. The tenants will be responsible for the property taxes and all utilities. The security deposit currently is only 1 month's rent, which is $2,500 plus the cost of living. It is now going to be 2 months' rent, so in excess of $30,000 for a security deposit. They'll be responsible for our maintenance and repairs within the facility. We've updated the insurance to today's standards for insurance coverage for workers' compensation, commercial general liability, property insurance, auto insurance if they begin using autos in their business, and a certificate of insurance for claims arising out of the ADA. And those were the big, the rest of it's boilerplate in the lease and has been in our other leases. So there's not much, no change to that, significant change to that. With respect to, again, to go over the CDP, I made notes, I can't find my notes. The CDP is part of the lease, it's integrated into the lease, so they must comply with the CDP or be in breach of their lease. So we are using the lease to force compliance. The CDP is a joint CDP, and in accordance with the CDP, we've worked with Pillar Point Harbor LLC on the responsibilities of each party on who's responsible for what in that CDP. And the Half Moon Bay is looking at what the district has assumed as responsibility for the restroom and green space project so that we can get that finalized and opened here in the near future. And at the same time, working with Pillar Point Harbor LLC with the compliance with their end of the coastal development permit. The compliance with the coastal development permit has been, I shouldn't say delayed, but has been tied to our construction project. And our construction project is taking a significant amount of time to complete. And so it's all rolling in sequence. There was nothing preventing them from complying with the CDB in the future. They were, I believe, just waiting for us to finish our construction work so they can continue with theirs. Again, they could have done it, but they didn't. I think that's what the coastal development permit was the big one. So other than that, I have nothing else unless you have a question. Again, we are on a time limit with the end of the month. And if we do not vote on this today, I recommend we call a special meeting prior to the end of the month to review it again. And again, the delay in posting it was due to the fact that I wasn't able to finish the negotiations until this week.
Right, I feel that there's a general agreement that we'll call a special meeting after publishing this online. In addition to the lease, I'd like to see an update on the restroom. I haven't seen a lot of activity around there. The fence is up, and perhaps we could cover those too. And I'd like to see the absolute earliest possible that we could for this special meeting so that we get this implemented before the end of the month. Commissioner Slater Carter.
In yesterday's note to the board from general manager. The general manager has agreed with the tenant to remove the personal guarantee language in the lease. I disagree. We have joint projects going on. If they don't have a personal guarantee to cover everything that's in the lease that they have agreed to, we're left holding the bag yet again, $1 million restroom. I think we need to make sure, since this particular tenant has a history of defaulting on timeliness of requirements that have been placed on this tenant, that we need to have extra protection for this district. And so I think we need to have a personal guarantee in it. It's kind of like a anti-violence question in the previous policy that we agreed. We have an anti-violence policy. We also have an anti-don't screw the district policy. You will give a parent, when you agree to something, you will give a parent a personal guarantee that you will do it. We don't want to be left holding the bag. So I would like to see the personal guarantee added to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chang Crowley.
So adding on to the personal guarantee issue, Jim, was that a request, that was a request from the tenant, right? Or did you, how did
Yes.
that, because that was not really discussed during negotiations.
Correct.
Okay, but I also want to let the public know that we did negotiate and the term, and we did negotiate on behalf of the Harbor District, obviously, and the terms, you know, we thought were pretty balanced. So I don't want people to think that we did things, that this just came out, because obviously the tenant, I think, would have wanted something else, and without going into detail, but it is something that the Harbor Board took very seriously. I don't want people to think that we did not take our responsibilities seriously.
I think as the general manager pointed out, the previous security deposit was 1 month for $2,500, and raising it to 2 months takes it to closer to 31,000. And that's why it was traded off from the personal guarantee. That's a pretty substantial increase.
Right, but that wasn't part of our negotiations. I think that we would have given more input. That's my point.
All right, I guess we're closing this matter out for a special meeting, and we'll review those. Any other comments or input to the lease?
Just a quick comment. We heard from 2 members of the public about the landscape screening as part of the CDP. Is there a way, or do we want to, or can we prioritize any elements of that project that can get done quicker than later? In other words, do we have to wait a year and a half for the landscape screening or the trees to cut back? Or is that something that we can say in a lease to do ASAP or immediately within the next shorter amount of time? Since those were the 2 big ones that we heard from the public on, but I don't know if that's possible.
Was a timeline established?
Ready to begin work, but are waiting for the lease to get signed before they start to
You can
look.
do anything, yeah.
Would that be
It's-
do we know if
again,
that would be
It's a
okay.
significant investment on their part,
Mhm.
and if they don't get a new lease, they don't want to make that
Oh,
investment.
that's true.
So it's all pending. A lot of the smaller projects, like the tree trimming and the fencing, are all pending signature on the lease.
Right, okay.
All right, well, item G7 is deferred to a special meeting, which takes us to item G8 on the agenda.
Commissioner Mateusz, if we can, try to schedule a special meeting for
Good on
the
June
18th.
17th. I'm traveling, I'm gone.
So 17th.
Yeah, and that'll give us this
That's Monday.
72-hour notice for people to read the lease online.
Monday would be a great.
17, that's, yeah, I'm traveling, I'm gone from the 18th.
What time would you like to host it, Commissioner Mateusz?
Is there a possibility, can we do this tomorrow at 4 p.m.?
That'll give 24 hours.
Actually,
We can do it tomorrow or Friday. It's
Friday morning?
Whatever.
Friday morning, a couple of us are out of town.
Oh, you were correct. So we can do it tomorrow morning or tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 6:30.
6:30 PM.
So are you going to be telling the future tenant that this personal guarantee will be in the lease that we approve? Because it's,
Yes.
Well, we haven't, as a board, uniformly agreed to that.
well, I think we should have that discussion.
I'm available tomorrow. And I just wonder if that's enough time for the public to read the lease
If it goes up on the,
on the website.
Today.
Yeah. You gone on the 17th? You gone on the 17th too?
I'm gonna do it right now.
not
Jim,
some,
I'm gonna do it right now.
17th as possible. I just want to make sure that the sooner we get this signed, the sooner people can start working on it and address all these concerns.
I'm fine. Any. Or tomorrow.
Tomorrow evening or the 17th.
Yeah,
That's your preference, sir.
you picked. I'm,
Let's do tomorrow evening.
Okay.
We'll get the agenda published right after this meeting.
5 o'clock.
And the draft lease will be posted within, before this meeting's over, and then again with the agenda.
Please send a copy of it to all of our correspondents. Send a comment to Ed and Lisa and to Robert? Chris, sorry, I'm bad with names.
I have a 4:30 to, I have a 3:30 to 4:30 tomorrow anyway, already.
6:30. I don't want to interrupt people's dinner.
How is it different, 6:30 or 5 o'clock?
7. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah, 5 o'clock.
okay.
5 o'clock?
5 o'clock.
Well, it's easier on staff.
Yeah, if it's earlier.
Stuff.
Staff is me, so.
That's you.
5 o'clock. Then that's good. 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Can we have some discussion on personal guarantee versus the 2 months? Get some board consensus here.
To discuss
I
it?
don't think it's a versus, and I don't think getting a personal guarantee will be a significant issue.
Well, I mean, Tom,
So
what
I
are you
believe we could
asking?
have both the deposit and the personal guarantee. And it won't be that much issue for the tenant.
All right. Guess we'll discuss it at the meeting.
Is that a closed session item?
No.
Okay. Okay.
One of my objectives in getting on this board was to bring the district's legal agreements up to 20th century protection, 21st century protections for the district. And I think a 5-year extensions, it's the only thing that says that the tenant should be basically in compliance with the lease is a little long. I think that the only hold we have on this, getting this particular tenant to do anything, which has been demonstrated over the past 25 years, is to have shorter term leases. And so we should talk about that too. You know, most leases, commercial leases that I have been involved with The shortest term one, one of the shorter term ones was 15 years. Except I had to invest $3 million. So I had to look at the payback. We aren't asking for that kind of investment. And we're giving a pretty darn good return on marginal improvements. I want to make sure that these improvements get done. And I think 5 years is more than enough, and then we will discuss things. But I don't, I have heard people commenting for years about these green light leases that the harbor is then forced to renew because there's no exceptions to it. We need to protect the district and our income and our costs. So I think a 20 years worth of leases for a very low investment, they're still making a whole lot of money and we're making a bit more. We need to be able to protect ourselves because we have projects that we need to get done, and our tax basis is, we need to decrease our dependence on our tax basis on our residential.
This is enterprise side.
Yes, so this is the enterprise side, and we should treat it as an enterprise side, not a welfare organization.
To item G8, Pillar Point Harbor Johnson Pier Electrical Upgrades Project. Invitation to bid, Mr. Moran. Your item.
Morning, Commissioners. This agenda items regarding the Johnson Pier Electric Upgrades Project invitation for bid for actual construction. Pursuant to a publicly advertised invitation for bid, authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with the low bidding construction contractor, Andrini Brothers, Inc., for the Pillar Point Harbor Johnson Pier Electrical Upgrade Project for an amount not to exceed $1,227,600 with a 10% contingency in the event there is a need for a change order due to unforeseen challenges, and authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount and approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations of $1,350,360 to be funded by available working capital. Johnson Pier is a very active commercial fishing hub, as we all know, which also, along with vessel dockage, has 3 district tenant fish buying operations. These very active fish buying operations facilitate catch being offloaded from vessels and loaded onto trucks so that the catch can be transported to processing facilities. The equipment necessary, the squid pumps, buoys, etc., have significant electrical needs, which the current infrastructure cannot accommodate. Therefore, the fish buyers have had to supplement with large diesel generators. In an effort to provide the necessary electrical capacity, the district hired a design engineering firm to create technical specifications and acquire the necessary permitting in order to upgrade the electrical systems. The goal of the project is to increase the electrical capacity and stability that serves the 3 fish buyers and to maintain the capacity of the service to the fuel dock. Our design engineers have been in communication with the tenant fish buyers ever since the starting of the design and permitting in 2019 to get their input on preferred voltage, location of new equipment, and to update them on the status of the project. So we have had multiple meetings with the actual fish buyers and the tenants, the fuel dock tenant as well. We have met with them individually as a group at least 5 times and several other meetings on site. The existing electric service is unstable due to the long run of over 500 feet from the transformer on land to the pier terminus. That causes the voltage to drop. The new service will utilize the excess capacity in the land side 480-volt transformer and will provide an additional 200 amps of 120 volts to each fish buyer. That's a 160% increase. Additionally, utilizing the 480-volt feed out to the buildings will result in a much more stable voltage. The service to the fuel dock will also be changed to ensure their needs are met. Subsequently, a construction invitation for bid was advertised. After all the meetings and the scope of the project was identified, permitting was obtained, and the technical specifications were completed. 2 contractors attended the pre-bid conference. Bid opening was held on June 5th, and 1 bid was received. The district's engineer's estimate for the project construction cost was 1.1 million, and the qualified bid received from Andrini Brothers was just over that at 1.2 million. A review of the bid line items by district design engineering consultant found that they were reasonably consistent with what was anticipated. Therefore, staff recommends that the board approve aforementioned motion to authorize the district general manager to enter into an agreement with the low qualified bidder. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, comments?
We need to do, and we've got a reasonable bid and.
I'll make a motion to authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with Andrini Brothers for the Pillow Point Harbor Johnson Pier electrical upgrades project for an amount not to exceed $1,227,600 with a 10% contingency in the event there is a need for change orders due to unforeseen challenges, and authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount and approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations of $1,350,360 to be funded by available working capital.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call, please?
President Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Domerat,
Aye.
Commissioner Jane Crowley,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Yes.
Item G9, Oyster Point Marina West Basin Access Improvement Project Invitation for bid. Director of Operations Moran, your item.
This agenda item's another project invitation for bid that we had regarding the Oyster Point Marina West Basin access improvements. The motion is pursuant to a publicly advertised invitation for bid, authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with the low bidding construction contractor, Bellingham Marine Inc., for the Oyster Point Marina West Basin Access Improvement Project for an amount not to exceed $3,395,611 with a 10% contingency in the event there is need for change orders due to unforeseen challenges, and authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount and approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations of $3,735,172 to be funded by available capital, working capital. This project is the district manages the Oyster Point Marina through a long-term agreement with the owner, South San Francisco. Pursuant to the agreement, the district is responsible to maintain the floating assets, floating docks, and the ramps that lead out to the docks. The 3 dock entrance landings for Oyster Point Marina's west docks, 1 through 6, are inundated between 30 and 45 minutes during high tides throughout the year, especially during the highest of tides, the king tides. To access the docks 1 through 6 during these time periods requires attendants to wade through water at depths in excess of 12 inches at times. A marina cannot meet its full potential to serve the public boating community when access to the docks are severely limited by being underwater at high tides. The ramps have also succumbed to multiple factors. age, as they're over 30 years old, exposure to the extreme saltwater environment, and landfill subsidence. Also, they're non-compliant with the most current of their age, their most current ADA requirements. The Bayside Trail, which runs alongside the dock landings, was moved inland and elevated by over 8 feet as a result of the City of South San Francisco's Oyster Point Development Project, adapting to sea level rise and landfill subsidence. The city's project, however, did build ramps from the newly built and elevated trail and parking lots down to our dock landings, but these new ramps now terminate underwater as they did before. The historic problem with the landings having succumbed to landfill subsidence was not addressed. In an effort to remedy this situation and provide safe access for district customers who keep their boats on Oyster Point Marina docks, the district hired a design engineering consultant to create technical specifications for construction for constructing entrance ramps originating from a higher elevation and obtain all necessary permittings for this project. Once design and permitting was completed, an invitation for bid was advertised, consistent with the California Public Contract Code. May 30th, 2024, the district received 2 construction bids, one for 3.3 million and one for just over 5 million. Both bidders were found to be qualified, but even the low bid was still nearly 1 million over the budgeted engineer's estimate of 2.4 million. The general manager requires board direction on how to proceed. The board has the following options, or of course, any others that they may determine more applicable. Option 1 would be to accept the low bid from Bellingham Inc., reallocating money from the budget to this project and moving forward with construction, keeping in mind that it's very likely the project may actually cost an additional 10% or more. If this option is selected, then the aforementioned motion would apply. And option 2, of course, would be to reject the 2 bids and direct staff to re-advertise the invitation for bid with a revised scope of work in hopes of getting more and lower bids. This also would delay the project, causing to wait till the next year's construction window. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Gomerat.
Do we have a better idea of where the additional, I mean, $1 million bid over the district's estimate is quite a bit. I mean, was there any analysis by the district to see what elements the low bidder was bidding on that would make it that high? I mean, the first one we did $100,000, that's kind of within noise level, but $1 million is a bit much. So do you have a better idea of where maybe the district misestimated or when it was estimated?
Yeah, obviously it was as we just discussed, I guess it's a significantly higher amount than what our design engineering team had estimated. And just as it did with the other project, they also evaluated these bids as well. And the 1 million over our estimate was obviously much better than the 3 million over the estimate of the second bid. Both of these bids were significantly higher than what our design engineering team believed was fair and relevant prices or costs. The reasoning for that, we do not know. We did not have time to negotiate with the bidders, nor after talking to legal counsel was that afforded were we afforded an opportunity to do so. So we're down to these 2 options at present.
And the additional funding for this project, if approved, would come from the budget We're,
1.8.
we mentioned the $1.8 million
Yeah.
would be reduced. And we'd have, give or take about $1 million instead of the 1.8.
Commissioner Chang Crawley.
Okay, a couple of things, in our packet, we don't have the bid, but just to make sure everyone knows it's on the online, in the online packet, the link. So the Bellingham bid, which is about 40 pages, is here online if anyone wants to look at that. Number two is, Jim, we got that letter that you sent to us from, organization, bid advisory, low FFC, Foundation for Fair Contracting. So I just want to I want to put it out there. I mean, I talked to Jim about this contract and the company seems great, but just in case, do you even want to talk about what this letter? Against the Bellingham Marine bid.
Along with whatever the general
Yes.
manager may come up with, or may want to add. But it's not unusual for us to
Right.
have protests from this particular organization. They obviously look out for their union members. And this particular contractor, as others we've used in the past as well, hire their own staff.
Go ahead.
I'll take a motion, to authorize the general manager to enter into an agreement with the low bidding construction contractor Bellingham Marine for the Oyster Point Marina West Basin Access Improvement Project for an amount not to exceed $3,395,611 with a 10% contingency in the event there is a need for change orders due to unforeseen challenges, and authorize the general manager to issue change orders up to the contingency amount and approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations of $3,735,172 to be funded by available working capital.
I'll second that with a caveat. I had a couple of questions on that bid, and I did not look at the whole bid package in great detail. But this work is going to be very close to the Bay Trail. Does that contract include making provisions for rerouting the Bay Trail during construction, or at least
Yes.
making some accommodations for the public that uses the Bay Trail?
The technical specifications require that the contractor, because they'll need to be set up in order with their heavy equipment.
Right.
To create an alternate route and always keep the Bay Trail open.
Open.
It was explained to them during our site visit that they're unable to close the Bay Trail.
Okay.
At any time during the project.
Yeah. Okay. The other one was, it's the project that we're doing is to make those several nice new aluminum ramps obsolete or not used anymore. What's going to happen to those ramps?
I'm scheduling a meeting now with the city of South San Francisco. We also have concerns with access to the harbor master's office, dock 8, dock 7 during plus tides. And I'm hoping that we can come up with a plan where we can reuse those docks as bridges or ramps to keep people out of the water as they go down to the ferries. Now that the ferries have pretty good business down there in dock 8.
Right. Right. Oh, okay. I'm glad to see that those.
I don't want to throw them
I don't
away.
want to throw those are nice.
They're the wrong
nice ramps.
length and size for using them as ramps for our docks. But,
Docks, right.
for
The district didn't pay for those.
No, those are Kilroy's.
Right, those were part of the.
for temporary fix, which could be several years.
Right.
For dock 8 and harbor master's office and dock 7. I'm very interested in how we can reuse those.
Just do a line of ramps out to
Yes.
the dock. Oh, that's a neat idea. No, I
Because
like
they
that.
don't have to be very high.
Right,
Need
just
to be
raised up
14 inches off the
off the ground. Yeah, right.
We can reuse those, we'll recover the extra $1 million that we didn't.
No, I'm happy that those will hopefully find a potential
The
use.
city's very interested in not recycling them into the waste stream, and so are we, so.
Okay.
When we can, between their engineers and our engineers, we can come up with a plan where we can reuse those at a minimal cost
Mhm.
to solve the other problem that we face on the spit.
Right.
Because the spit, to fix the spit, you're talking
That's a big,
$100 million.
yeah, that's a big fix, yeah.
And
Okay.
our budget doesn't cover $100 million fix.
Nor does this.
I will, voice a concern that I have or a fear in the future. We're getting close to spending, we started out a couple of years ago with 22 million in our account. We're accounting for almost all of that 22 million now, except for our reserves. And we're getting low with that backup funding. We do have money in our accounts to cover the estimated price of the Surfers Beach replenishment project. But that is the engineer's estimate on how much it will cost. And as we've seen, costs keep on going up, up and up. So it's already above the engineer's estimate, in my opinion, but it'll be even higher next year. And what will those actual costs be once we put it out for bid and we get those bid documents back? Certainly that they may come back at even like this one, 100% more or less, but budgetary is going to be extremely tight if that does come to fruition where it comes in higher. And we're looking into ways to address that now. There is a grant that is due on the 26th of this month that we've been working very hard on for the last several months. And we'll be submitting that grant for that project. That will help us out significantly if we get that grant.
How much is that?
2.4 million is the Ocean Protection Council.
Okay.
And actually, that's the track one is the one that we did apply or did put in a letter of interest for. And they told us that the track two would be better suited. So I think the track one is the one that's due this month.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
But
think
we're highly engaged with
our team's
applying for
working.
that. And we're hopeful we'll get that. Hope's not a plan, but that's all we have with that. And we're also working very hard with our consultants on identifying other sources of funding for that project. And also on top of that, we have the Princeton Shoreline Project that the Army Corps has approved to go into the next stage. And that will require a cost sharing agreement for us too. Our cost sharing will be minimal, but it will cost money. And I've already notified or sent an email saying that we'll be needing county to discuss potential cost sharing from the county level to cover that cost because it's a county project as much as it is the Harbor District project. So that's more to cover those costs.
What would the percentage for cost sharing be?
Don't know yet. The Army Corps is putting that agreement together now, and I expect to receive it any day.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second for item G9. So could we try for a roll call?
Commissioner Jane Crowley.
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter. President Mathush.
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
Commissioner Dumrat.
Aye. All right, so we pulled item F10 off of consent. And rather than hearing it now, we'll agendize that for the next meeting.
Next regular meeting, we're not gonna, should we look at this
Next
tomorrow?
regular meeting is what I recommend.
Okay.
That's fine.
And future agenda items. Commissioners, some suggestions?
Yes. We had one that we should bring up. I was at the harbor the other day and in my former career, I was very concerned to see a non-governmental flag up on our flagpoles. Social group, somewhat controversial. But in my former career, I was warned by I was warned not to allow on my business premises any flags official information notices or even informal information notices that were not covered in that case by the corporate policy, which was to only allow government adopted flags and information. It is because I was informed that if you make it available to somebody who is controversial, the next group who is anti the controversial group then has the rights to use your public space for information too. And it can get very messy. It can give your corporation or your business a bad public image for some, supported by others, and bad for others. And we want to keep this harbor district a public information, but not to advance personal or private agendas. And so I'd like to have a policy. I'd like to discuss this, our flag and information policy, and let's change it so that only government representing or government approved flags are allowed to go up for our district only. Yeah, so our district flag can go up. And if we have an agreement, with some other government,
With
Iranian
the US flag.
or whatever, we might be able to do that as a special courtesy, but in the meantime, no
If I can make a
local.
recommendation to that future agenda item is, ask staff to come back to the board with potential policies on, flags at the district.
And information posted. I would really appreciate that.
And then-
Thank you.
Can I add to that? I think that we should also look at that from a public safety lens too, because those flags signal wind conditions as well, right? I believe the clouds you're talking about,
I'm not, no,
or in
I'm,
general.
I'm talking about some, if you go down, if you look in our agenda packet, there's a flag that is representing a particular activist group.
I know, but what I'm saying is,
But official flags like wind condition flags or nautical flags with messages, those are traditional.
no, I
for-
know, but what I'm saying is that at least with the fire districts that I know, they don't put other flags up there
If I can,
because
this
of the
is-
public
is-
safety angle.
this is just an agenda item.
Yeah.
And we can't discuss it because
I
that is
understand.
on there, so.
But y'all are gonna be
Yes.
researching this, so I would ask that you look at it also from a public safety perspective, because those flags out there now actually serve a purpose for public safety. And I don't want the messages to ever be confused by the public.
Understood.
Any other future
Oh,
agenda items?
one other item too, I'm not sure if this is an agenda item or not. I have talked to the city manager of South San Francisco, and they're fully on board with us, trying to accommodate us on a meeting location in South San Francisco.
Right.
I think, I don't know if, I don't think it warrants an agenda topic necessarily, but I think scheduling a meeting or picking a date would help them kind of focus on, oh, let's move in this direction.
We're looking for a location.
Yeah, okay.
And then they're upgrading their audio and visuals.
Mhm.
And so we're waiting for them to let us know which spaces are available. And then we'll move forward. So we're actively working with.
Okay,
their
you're
staff.
working with it, good,
And they're very happy to work with us.
okay.
Excellent.
And George, you did suggest having Deborah Hurst and the mural project as an agenda item.
That's, if I may recommendation, that it would just be part of your ad hoc committee report.
Okay.
Okay, we can do that.
Hearing a little silence, so perhaps
Make a
there's.
we have-
decision to adjourn.
Do we have a vote on adding the agenda item for a flag and public posting policy?
All right, let's take a vote on that agenda item.
I'll second it, to
Okay,
put it on the.
got a motion, a second, roll call.
President Mateusz,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Damrat,
All right,
Commissioner Chang Crawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Please.
I'll second that.
At 12:15.
They're willing to sign a personal
There a
guarantee.
second.
Second.
Roll call.
President Mateusz, Commissioner Zemke,
Aye.
Commissioner Dumrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Crawley.
Aye.
Commissioner Slater Carter.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay, very good.
12:15 now.
Why did this get-
Oh.
What?
Why did this? Get-
Noon.